Howdy folks, coming in with a Wargame Red Dragon replay review for Baker. He and I played it as 2v2 a couple days ago, and I'm going to speed it up so that everybody gets deployed, and then I will go over the decks. So, yeah, 2v2 this is Plunging Valley, Baker and I on the Charlie side, and we're up against two Red 4 people on the Blue 4 side. Alright. So, Baker is running his US Unspec deck. Don't really need to talk about it because I've already done that with him. I'm running my Commonwealth deck. I've actually really come around to this. Very mix of infantry. I really like the Chimera in the vehicle tab. It's sort of been a revelation for me because it's like 120 or 130 point tank at the price for 110. So it's, and in the vehicle tab, it's pretty handy. Decent air. Just overall, I think this was maybe my first time playing this multiplayer, and it was a lot of fun. But I'm probably not going to focus that much on my play and focus more on Baker to critique him. And then on the other side, we have the Simon Kuong, who his deck, in the replay file, you can see that it is called Helo Rush. He doesn't Helo Rush really initially to start. Particularly, it's a Soviet motorized deck, so not airborne. But at the end of the game, we get some crazy weirdness going on. I would say the thing I'd like, some of this deck is well constructed, but not enough air, way too many tanks, particularly for a moto deck. And the infantry choices, particularly the great advantage of the Soviet motorized deck is the BTR-80A and the BTR-90, which are like wheeled IFVs, which most countries don't get, and there are none of those in this deck. So kind of a missed opportunity there. And also just having two airplanes, and the MiG-21 SMT is not that good. And then other player we have is MLG Potato, top-notch name. And I would say his deck is pretty decent. The tank tab is okay. Like, good selections he's made, but he does have 4 points to spend. The MI4A is worse than useless, and probably a bit too much AA. But still, like, not a bad start. Anyways. Let's get going at 1 speed. So I'm covering Foxtrot Alpha. Baker is going to Bravo. So he's got P-150 Recon Infantry commands, a mix of riflemen and light riflemen. I think there might be some Delta Force in there. Riflemen and Bradleys, a Pivads, a Chap, and an IP Abrams, along with starting out with a longbow and a DAP. And just a little bit of action over here. There's some Mi-24 attack helicopters come up and attack my Lynxes, but I managed to get my SOS out, and that they have stingers, so they shred these helicopters, including that command helicopter. And this force could have been pretty dangerous. This whole mess of infantry had pushed up on me, but it didn't really. And over here, the big mistake of the red player, Mr. Potato, opposite Baker, is he is very conservative in his positioning. This is super easy to get to, this sort of line that he's holding of this Delta Forest, but that is not the position you want to be in. You want to be trying to get up from this side of the map into this forest here, on like the Bravo corner and the Bravo town. Baker gets about spreading his people out in this town area. You know, I've holding my parts of the line because Baker's brought in 2 commands. We get the +1 tick going, and things are looking nice nice and good for us. At this point, only like evidence of activity we've seen is sort of the moving around people in this area, and that it's those helicopters that came over. Bringing in another tank and some mortars for Baker. This is a good move. This big open space. I mean, having the tank already and the like the IFVs and the longbow, this really helps cover this open space, but more tanks and other like open ground controlling stuff is good. I'm actually gonna speed it up a little bit here. Focus on Baker's play. I think at this point, I'm mostly focused on being like, hey Baker, yeah, like probe ahead with stuff that you got. See what's around. Like you haven't encountered any resistance. So as soon as he comes up, I think this is Delta Force. Yeah. Delta Force comes up, finds this town empty. A good sign. Nothing shooting at these helicopters. So it seems like this town is unoccupied. Yeah, this little V-150 scouts up. Nothing shoots at it. Some tanks way off over here. Gets into the tree line. Nothing. So I think at this point it's pretty. If there was stuff in this town, it probably would have been noticed by now. And that's the thing about Wargame is that you see all these units from the neutral perspective, but from our side, we see this helicopter. And from their side, they see some helicopters and some Humvees that are moving in the open. And this game is all about, it's why recon is one of the most important things in the game. And also like communication, information, paying attention to where shots are coming from even if you can't see the unit, because information is so critical in this game. Because generally, if you can see something, you can kill it. So the hardest part is seeing it. So this DAP comes up, shoots down that recon, and ideally pulls back. And then, yeah, this town's completely unoccupied. So this is a huge mistake, because generally on this map, it's hard to contest the opposing middle sector, Delta or Alpha. So you can test Foxtrot and Bravo, and then it's even, and nobody gains points in Conquest mode. So being able to completely control one or the other is really important, and being able to take this enormously good defensive position for free is amazing. Brings the longbow up, spots these tanks, who are very vulnerable, and takes them out. So at this point, I would say we can't see anything. Particularly the longbow, as a very expensive, very powerful unit that you only get like 2 of on the deck at most, it's really, really important to pull back. Like, you sort of want to go in, attack something that you can see, and then pull out so that AA doesn't get it. Rather than just having it sit here. Because even though like helicopters sort of automatically take cover by going low, this is still very vulnerable. And it's not vulnerable if they can't see it, which they can't right now, but like it's still better to hit and run with it. Bring up a flank recon helicopter is smart. Well, you should have done that a bit more. Probably would have prevented some bad things. Bringing this longbow up here is pretty risky. Because, hey, you know, there's the, it immediately gets shot down by pivads, or not pivads, manpads, which are just hanging out in this forest, and are very, like, you gotta be very careful, so, you gotta be very careful with those expensive units, and particularly helicopters, because helicopters can have huge damage potential, but they're also very fragile. this is a weird sort of push up here with just empty transports. Which, like, I think they kill maybe one of my Milan squads, or maybe two, but very unsupported. AA's in the you just can't really do if they had infantry with them, it would be scary because they could maybe get into the town, be a really tough fortified position, control space around them. There just is one squad which has infantry, and it's not all that dangerous. And this is good, just good movement from Baker, moving his stuff up forward into the new front line. Rather than, it can sometimes be good to leave a little bit of forces in defense, in the back, but generally you want to move stuff up as much as you can. This is a good fight right here because the 4Bs are slightly inferior to the M1 IPs. They're about it, but because they're facing the IPs, they're being forced to turn their side armor to the left, which is really exposing them. And at this point, it's probably worth retreating the IPs rather than taking it out of the fight. Or at least maybe splitting up and retreating the damage ones so you can prepare a little. But there's also like not that threatening PT-85. It's terrible, and it's only going to do 1 damage to the front armor anyways. And these T-72As are just sitting ducks against the IPs because the IPs have so much front armor that they can't panic. T-72s, that is. Again, the longbow just like charging forward. You could see pretty sure you could see the Strelas because they were visible. The Strelas are actually outranged by the Hellfires, so you can sometimes pick at them and take them out, but it is a very risky thing to do, and you get lost. So like, you gotta be very careful with Hellfires or risk losing them. This is a good air raid by Baker. Kills some AA, I think it might have been Tunguska. Kills big blocks of infantry. Really helped me out there. I was getting pushed pretty hard. There's some rocket artillery coming in from this grad. But it's not that effective. It's more annoying. Which is why I don't particularly rate rocket artillery. It's a not quite accurate call out on the shot, but like close enough for maybe a bomber, regular bomber. I think I tried bringing in a laser bomber on this thing, but it didn't work out. So if these Humvees had infantry in them, this would be toast. Because the Humvees can't actually hurt this light armored vehicle. But the infantry drop out 84, or yeah, law it, it's good. I think the that's just a like decent, like you're not risking that much with the Humvees. But even again, some infantry really help. pushing the helicopter forward when you know there is AA there. It's just like an awareness thing. Think about, you know, like you have to, again, there's limited information is like the name of the game with Wargame. So you have to remember where stuff is. That's why the mark tool, where you can type out, put your own text in, is so useful. Because you can, like, mark AA, and maybe help you remember that it's there. This was actually a really smart use of smoke to cover the retreat of this Strela from the Notice. I don't use smoke enough. It's definitely it should be my point of emphasis in my use of artillery and mortars in particular, because it's such a useful tool. But through the course of this game, because Bravo is being held, we've been just ticking up +1 point this whole time, which, you know, is overtime. It's a pretty big lead. So this is a big block of relatively cheap tanks, which the M1 IPs are able to start shooting at because of their they have better armor, so it takes much more range for the T-72s to get in there. Also, because of the spread out positions, they're showing, and also just their avenue advance, they're showing their side, which made it significantly easier. Did lose a damaged IP. That was an unfortunate loss to Estrella. Those bombs missed. Those bombs hit, but there isn't really anything in here to hit. It's unfortunate because it's cluster bomb right here would have been really good. But again, you're sort of blind bombing into the forest is you're basically hoping to get lucky. So at this point, most of Bigger's points have been, I think, spent on aircraft to support me, which is a good thing because this push was pretty dangerous and I'm taking up a lot of my effort, so it wasn't the wrong choice. But yeah, definitely getting some recon in this tree line, some more space controlling stuff. And at this point, T-64 BBs have the advantage of range, so it would be good to pull that back. Also, you can see, I think I've said this before, but the units that are hidden from view and that the opposing players can't see when they're in a forest or town have this sort of transparent flashing mark over them. And then when they are either visible because they're, say, out in the open, like the Spartan or Saxon, or if they're able to be spotted. Then they stop flashing and become opaque. So it's a good way of looking at your units and going, oh, this isn't hidden, so I should probably, that means it can be shot. This is a pretty decent use of mortars, just sort of shelling into where you expect there to be light units. You can also, with all artillery, you can queue fire position orders, which is good for covering a lot of area. The other thing you can do is their mortars are counter-battering fire yours here, which isn't, it's enough to reduce their accuracy and damage them a little bit. If this was like heavy artillery, it'd be more concerning. So one of the things I like to do with my mortars is when I have time and I'm not dealing with something like active combat and I want to shoot a bunch of stuff, I'll have my mortars along the road and I'll shift shift queue up a bunch of orders with shift where I'll fire position something and then fast move a little bit down the road, fire position, fast move a little bit down the road, fire position, move back down the road in the opposite direction or in a different spot, so that the mortars just sort of do their thing for a couple minutes where they're dropping shells and hurting stuff, but I don't have to, like, and they're also staying safe from counter battery fire, but I don't have to, like, I can pay attention to other stuff at some point. This is where, quick note of what I'm doing, I'm pushing to take back this town. So a lot of this is through having Spears fire support, so Challenger 1 Mark II, Chimera, some warriors to support my infantry, so that when the enemy infantry reveals itself, it gets shot at, all this stuff. And my fire support is better than T-55's AOC 58. This is a helicopter. So that was another, like, expensive, exceptional recon helicopters. You should be very careful with, and try to be very safe with them. And they can see very far. They can see like 5,000 meters. So you can keep them pretty far back. This push. These don't have much armor anyways, but they're still showing side to pushing the TCBBs and like superior attacks. And that is like one of the difficult things about particularly recognizing Red 4 units, is that they're all variants of like the same 4 tanks and with some letters after them. But so if you can't see something and then use eye to put the idea over it, it can be hard to recognize what's better, how is it compared to. At this point, like, the Super Cobras are 200 points, but you probably would need a better purchase, particularly using stuff at AA, would be ground units for this area. So you're gonna push that pretty hard. Like some more tanks. Because I'm actually going to adjust the audio down, because it seems very loud. And though I love the sound of a good American burr, yeah, so like, I mean, these light riflemen are in such a good position, but that's their last missile. It does take out a DMPT, so pretty effective. But you really need more frontline reinforcements to hold this instead of the Super Cobras. I guess the Super Cobras are good as like emergency things. Raven comes in, don't spot anything. Good, get it out of there. And the bombs do stop the push. Get some good damage with the cluster bomber. I think you killed one of the T-64s somehow. So that was a good coordinated air raid. It's actually one of the things I used to send planes in one at a time, but Baker sending in all his planes at once in this big coordinated air raid is, one, it's really scary from the other side to see like 8 planes or whatever. Maybe not that much, but like half a dozen planes coming out all at once and panicking about that. 2, it's overwhelms your air defenses because there's just too many planes to shoot at, and you don't have enough time coordinating that to focus, like micro your AA to focus fire on stuff, so planes can get away, and it's just you get a lot of bombs out, so it's pretty effective. As you can see back here, we can see this at the time. Look at all these expensive helicopters just hanging out back here. This is probably why we were able to make so much, headway, because all these points are over here. So at this point, this push has been picked up, but we're still want to try to hold up. We're getting good headway on gaining points. I'm pushing up into here. Again, the Super Cobras. This is a nasty loss, or it might not be quite a loss, but like, this is the power of manpads, is that because they're 2 guys, generally speaking, and they're super stealthy, you can just hide them in woods, and helicopters show up and you kill them. I would say also with 100-point helicopters, it's probably better to have them in singles, because one, helicopters, AA missiles technically do splash damage. It rarely comes up. But I have seen stuff like iHawks and Bucks, which do 9 HE damage, take out a pair of helicopters with 1 missile, which does feel pretty satisfying when it happens. And the other thing is that generally a TOW 2 is enough to one-shot things, and they're pretty expensive to resupply. Same with Hellfires. And if you have them in pairs, not only are they more vulnerable to AA, and you're more likely to lose both of them if you make a mistake and overextend and get AA shooting at you. You're going to be wasting missiles because they're going to both shoot TOW 2s at like a 5-point box. So it's better to have helicopters, attack helicopters as singles, like pretty much all the time. And you also just generally want to you don't want to like lurch them forward at like towns or forests that the enemy is occupied, because most people have at least a little bit of AA. Like for me, I've started running pretty AA light decks, but I still have an ADATS over here and SAS, though they're out of missiles. I have some more SAS over here. You are fully up. And you have a Stormer, some SAS, and you really only takes 1 or 2. It doesn't take that much AA to wreck helicopters. So with here, the loss of the Bradley to a tank is just from range, because the advantage the Bradley has over most tanks is the missile range, as opposed to tank gun range, which does HGMs are a little weak compared to real life, because they don't outrange tank guns by that much. That was an effective bombing strike though, but part of what you part of the way you can maximize that is by trying to always engage tanks in particular at max range with ATGM carriers. The exception is guys like the 2-man ATGM teams, just because they're so hard to spot and see. They can get away with it. And then this is the thing that I missed out on. There's all these helicopters going super wide this way for some cheese, because we're very probably gonna win this game very soon. We got over 400 points, still have the +1 tick. Where I bring in a big air raid here. We're pushing up into Delta. I think I was bringing in a CV for Delta at some point soon, which would give us a +3 tick. Pretty nasty. Essentially, like, these LEVs do well enough just because there's so many of them compared to what they're fighting against. But generally, you want to have them lead with infantry for control for clearing forests. All right, so here comes, you know, flight of Valkyries, bum, etc. I don't think. So I had put this LAV over here to try and spot this. This, like, it's a legit tactic. It works sometimes. So the way we could protect it against this is, one, we could have had some AA in base. I noticed it right here, which is basically two. Some AA in base, or sort of around your base zone, helps you can ward off stuff like this, or at least give you more time to react. Flanking recon also gives you some more time to react. Then once you've realized the initial healer rush, generally people think that the most important thing is your is AA, which is, it's true for defeating the healer rush, but really the most important thing is your commands. Like this guy coming over here with the cluster bombers. The reason why these cluster bombers are out is probably to try and hit command vehicles. Because a lot of the ways that these rushes gain victory isn't by killing all your units, or causing the zone. It's either by being successful and forcing people to rage quit, which is a problem, or by killing all your commands. So I'm desperately trying to get these commands. You see, like, one ADAT's killed basically all of that rush. The problem is they were actually pretty smart and brought a command with them, and then now we have no reinforcement zones, which was decent map knowledge from or map awareness from them of being. So this is a problem. I think at this point I'm very much like we need to push forward, because one, we should realize that right now at least, their defenses are pretty weak, because all that money went into helicopters and command and stuff that's just been sitting there. And also, there's only 8 minutes left in the game. So if we can mitigate the losses we experience with points by having commands in the right place. I lost this Iltis very stupidly. I think I forgot about it after killing the helicopters. I probably should have just brought it back to Delta. And then we would have only been at +1 right now. So you want to do as much as you can to mitigate point losses, because we have this huge lead. And if we can keep this huge lead if we can keep enough of this huge lead, then we can still win, because there's not enough time left for them to tick points. So, like, if I had the Iltis CP still alive and I brought it into Delta, that would have been excellent. So unfortunate here. Just losing AA, just because I don't have enough, like, missiles. And, you know, like, they're in the open, so I was reacting to the helicopter rush. We're still trying. I was sort of a mind of, like, if we were quicker, we maybe could have pushed up and taken Echo. But they have the advantage. Pushing against any spawn zone is really hard, and it's especially hard when you don't have airplanes or reinforcements. This is an unfortunate loss of 2v1. So one of the things you can do when you have a tank that's somewhat better is reverse away to open up range. So then you can get to sort of a sweet spot where you have AP on them and can penetrate their front armor, but they can't penetrate on you. It doesn't work quite as well against a lot of Russian tanks because they have the ATGMs. but it's still like the primary way of making a good tank, of why more expensive tanks are better than cheap tanks in pretty much any situation. I think I was trying to get you to move this to Delta just because there's more points worth of Delta, but I don't remember if it survives. I should have used... Oh, my mortars are dead. Never mind. I was saying, if I had mortars, I should have used smoke here. That would have been smart, but I think it just barely gets away, yeah. And then... So here's the Bradley, because it is able to take out this tank, because it's in the open, and it's hidden. Yeah, and then I don't think, as much as we've had the superior, like, tactics, I just don't think we can push against the swarm. But it still was the right move to try to push aggressively when somebody is spawning stuff in behind you. I also realized if I had been smarter, I sort of forgot about this Aslev over here. I should have been like, oh, what's around? Ooh, maybe I can poke in and, I don't know, kill this command. Same with this helicopter. Maybe I can fly in. Oh, there's a helicopter. And, or, oh, there's a little command truck over here. So I definitely could have been, I personally could have been a bit more proactive with my little bits of units around, because there's no AA back here. Yeah, the zombie does come up, and again, 2 versus 1 slows the tick. Oh, but oh, there are my mortars. Yeah, should have smoked off there. Yeah, so instead of charging this helicopter forward to where I knew there was AA, should have charged back where I thought where I didn't know there was AA, and there actually isn't. I'm gonna speed this up. Not that much interesting happens. We basically just rush forward and slam into each other, and I think Baker basically was playing super well up until we got this weird deep strike thing behind us, and obviously that's it's an abnormal situation. It's not great. It's not, I'm not gonna say like it's poor sportsmanship, because like it's part of the game, but we were definitely very much winning the game quite handily up until that, and as shown by the fact that we still come out ahead with a draw. So yeah, it was a good game, and I hope you learned something from my ramblings.